Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the IDB Lab session, How Entrepreneurial Innovation Can Drive Economic and Social Transformations. My name is Fan Li, Partnership Officer at the Resource Mobilization Division at IDB. It's my pleasure to moderate this session. IDB Lab is one of the three entities of the IDB Group. It's the innovation laboratory of the IDB Group. IDB Labs to drive innovation for inclusion, co-creating life-changing solutions for vulnerable populations affected by economic, social, and environmental conditions in Latin America and the Caribbean region. IDB Lab is the only regional entity fully dedicated to fostering innovation in Latin America and the Caribbean. And the IDB Group is the only MDB that has a dedicated arm for supporting innovation. Today's session will discuss some of the emerging innovation and new business models, illustrate how these address urgent social and environmental challenges while activating new engines for economic growth. Today with us are 6 speakers. They will dive into 5 specific examples to showcase how innovation can be harnessed to advance social and development goals. They are silver economy, worker tech, female entrepreneurship, inclusive value chains, and green agriculture. These are areas of high relevance for the Latin American Caribbean region in the near future to address social gaps and to ignite new engines of inclusive growth. This session will be 1 hour, with each pitch and presentation for 10 minutes. At the end of the session, we will have 10 minutes to answer your questions. Please type your questions in the chat. We collect questions throughout the session. Without further ado, let's welcome Masato Okumura, Private Finance Operations Specialist, IDB Lab, and Marco Steppini, Social Protection Lead Specialist, IDB, to present their first opportunity in the area of silver economy. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Fan, for that great introduction. Hello all, this is Masato Okumura from IDB Lab. Now, together with Marco from IDB, we'll be sharing our silver economy initiative, representing many of other colleagues working together. Most likely, many of you have heard of the term silver economy. Actually, on the day one, you may have heard about it in the private sector session. We use this term silver economy, including all the challenges and opportunities around aging. Let me start with some numbers. Latin America and the Caribbean is a relatively young region compared to other regions of the world. Today, only 1 in every 8 people is over 60. However, in 30 years, it will be more than double. Currently, it is the 5th region in the world in terms of the percentage of the older people, and in 2050, it will be the 3rd. In fact, this process of aging comes more quickly in our region than any other region has experienced. It is also very important to note that in some countries, such as Uruguay or Barbados, the figure is around 20%, close to the level of North America or Europe. Argentina and Chile have more than 15%. The issue is not something that comes in 30 years, it's already happening.
Population aging creates challenges for the sustainability of spending on pensions and healthcare. Today, this spending represents about 35% of total public spending in Latin America and the Caribbean. However, without reforms, it is projected that this percentage will grow to 80% by the year 2065. One way to rationalize healthcare spending is by developing services that promote older persons' autonomy through active aging and long-term care. The development of this sector is an opportunity for entrepreneurship, employment, and public-private partnerships in the region. Let me give you one example from outside the region. In the Republic of Korea, in just 10 years, the long-term care sector has created 500,000 jobs, which represent about 2% of total employment in the country. Without this sector, currently, more than 80% of the burden of long-term care is falling on women in Latin America and the Caribbean, with negative effects on their labor market outcomes. IDB is actively supporting countries in addressing these challenges. Older persons are also becoming more productive. In the slide, you see Ms. Masako Wakamiya. She's from Japan, and she's talking to Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, who invited her to an event. After retiring from a bank at 70 years old, Ms. Masako discovered the world of computers and smartphones, but she soon realized that there were no games or apps for older persons. She decided to produce some herself. At 81, she launched her first gaming app on the Apple App Store. Today, she continues to program, and she is also a popular YouTuber. Ms. Masako is part of the silver economy, which is made of the markets for goods and services for older persons, and which includes also their entrepreneurship and productivity. The value of the silver economy is huge. For example, in Europe, it is estimated at about 6 trillion euros per year. The silver economy is also part of Vision 2025 of the bank, for its potential to contribute to economic recovery in Latin America and the Caribbean through the creation of millions of formal jobs, and also for its clear gender dimension. Recently, we published 2 studies. The first to position aging and the silver economy as an opportunity for innovation, entrepreneurship, and inclusion. The second, a mapping of the silver economy in Latin America and the Caribbean, which highlights actors and trends. The mapping identifies 245 actors and also points out innovations and growth opportunities in each sector. Let me give you a few examples. First, the long-term care sector is made of a multitude of relatively small players and shows a trend to develop in-home care services, responding to a marked preference, which is worldwide, for aging in place in one's community. Second, in the healthcare sector, we identified several initiatives with high technological content aimed at managing chronic diseases and promoting active aging. These are all highly aligned with the principles of the Decade of Healthy Aging of the World Health Organization. Third, the financial sector is made of fewer, larger players who are developing reverse mortgage products, which allow generating income flows while retaining the use of the home. Fourth, in the labor market, we found several platforms that are helping older persons to continue work or develop their entrepreneurship if they wish to do so, feeling active and productive parts of their societies. Finally, we found several cross-cutting initiatives that help older persons use information technologies, which are a fundamental part of all the innovative initiatives and products that we pointed out in all sectors so far.
We are also launching some operations. This is our first project in Uruguay, where we want to improve the well-being of older people through promoting innovations and venture businesses focused on addressing their problems and needs. What do we plan to do? First, we want to research and learn about the senior population, understand their problems, and identify neglected opportunities. Then, promote and inspire entrepreneurs to work in this silver economy market. Finally, connect and scale. We want to connect actors to co-create solutions and accelerate the scale-up. We work with Endeavor, that is an ideal partner for this initiative. Another project that we are starting in Peru is reskilling and upskilling of older people. The objective here is to give them additional trainings so that they can stay relevant in the labor market. We have the Romero Group as a partner. Additionally, we have just approved the Silva Tech project in Argentina. We aim to promote training and employment opportunities focusing on technology. In this project, in addition to AIDOS, a local NGO that will be our direct partner, we have several tech giants as strategic partners, such as Salesforce, Microsoft, Accenture, SAP. The idea is to make the most of their technical capacity and also their power to promote the initiative working all together. Then, this year, we closed the first innovation challenge of the silver economy. As the IDB Group, we looked for innovative ideas for all the 26 member countries in the region. We are very happy to have received 181 applications from 27 countries, 21 from the region and 6 from outside the region. It means a lot to us that we received proposals from outside the region as well, since we all know that aging and the silver economy is more advanced there, and we would like to introduce their knowledge and solutions. We just announced the 9 selected proposals, all of them very innovative and will form part of the new portfolio of the project of silver economy. As you have seen, we as IDB Group have been working on this topic these years, and we believe that this is something we need to keep working for the coming years or even decades. So, we'll be very happy to have you joining this very important effort. We are quite open to any ideas and suggestions for the collaboration. You may want to co-finance projects or challenges. You may have ideas of knowledge-related activities or promotion of connections. We'll be more than happy to discuss further with any of you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Masato. Thank you, Marco. Congratulations on the first innovation challenge of the silver economy. It's really impressive. And I also want to echo what Masato said just now. Let's connect and scale. Next, I would like to invite Laila Cho, Senior Investment Officer, IDB Lab, to present a very important topic, the women entrepreneurship. Laila, please.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you 2 IDB Lab initiatives to promote and advance women entrepreneurship in STEM in Latin America and the Caribbean, We Exchange and We3A. Let me start by introducing We Exchange, which was created in 2013 by IDB Lab. Back then, we at IDB Lab, as an investors in many venture capital funds in the region, were aware of the significantly low proportion of portfolio startups of our investee funds with women founders or co-founders. We wanted to learn more about the profiles, challenges, needs of high-growth STEM women entrepreneurs in the region, so we commissioned a study interviewing over 400 women entrepreneurs. We learned that they face 3 key challenges. First, the lack of access to financing and capital. Second, limited or ineffective networks. We know that having an effective and robust network is one of the main factors that contribute to the success of an entrepreneur. And lastly, lack of supportive environment to create and grow companies in the region. So We Exchange was created with the key goal of unleashing the growth potential of women entrepreneurs in STEM by connecting them with potential investors, mentors, other fellow entrepreneurs, and industry experts. Since 2013, we've been organizing annual forums in different countries in the region, offering women entrepreneurs access to mentors and potential investors, the opportunity to expand their networks, opportunity to participate in training sessions, inspirational talks, and also pitch their companies in front of venture capital investors. So far, we have hosted 8 editions of We Exchange annual forums in Miami, Mexico, Argentina, Chile, Peru, Paraguay, and the last edition in virtual format, gathering over 3,000 women entrepreneurs, investors, mentors, and industry experts across Latin America and the Caribbean. Our key goals during the 2 days of the annual forum are inspiring women entrepreneurs and also aspiring women entrepreneurs by showcasing success stories of female founders in the region. Second, setting the ground for meaningful connections among participants. There is plenty of networking during these 2 days. Third, providing visibility to promising women entrepreneurs and fostering peer-to-peer transfer of knowledge. And finally, equipping women entrepreneurs with relevant tools to create, grow, and scale their businesses. We offer them the possibility to participate in mentoring sessions and also very practical training sessions. Here is a snapshot of what happened last year in our virtual format. We had inspirational talks with women-led unicorns in Latin America. We had panels with women entrepreneurs and investors on very practical aspects of creating and running a company in the region and also raising venture capital funding to grow their businesses. And this is what will happen this year. Demo day of our first cohort of the LAC Women Founders Accelerator program that we launched early this year with Google for Startups. So during the demo day, 20 women-led startups selected among over 300 applicants will pitch their companies to a jury of venture capital investors from the region. And finally, there will be plenty of networking, even in the virtual format. The 9th edition will take place on December the 1st and 2nd with the generous support of WIFI, Women Entrepreneurs Finance Initiative. Now, I would like to introduce you another very exciting initiative that we plan to launch soon, also with funding from WIFI. We3A, Women Entrepreneurs Aspire, Activate, and Accelerate program. This is a 14 million project made up of 2 sub-projects. The first one focused on facilitating women entrepreneurs' access to value chains. My colleague Svante will elaborate on this later in the session. And then a second project focused on promoting the growth and resilience of STEM-based entrepreneurs. I would like to present briefly the STEM project with 7 million funding from WIFI. We will be targeting women entrepreneurs and aspiring women entrepreneurs in STEM in emerging and nascent ecosystems in the region, including 7 countries in Central America and Ecuador. And we plan to channel 50% of the resources to Honduras and Nicaragua, IDA countries. With the first component, Activate, we will be targeting aspiring women entrepreneurs in STEM willing to create technology or technology-enabled companies that seek to address very relevant challenges in the region, including sectors such as health, financial services, education, mobility, transportation, agriculture, clean energy, among others. So as these aspiring women entrepreneurs from the target countries will be selected by partner executing agencies that we will be selecting soon through an open call for proposals. And these entrepreneurs will participate in incubation programs that will be offering intensive training, mentoring, exposure to role models, and the opportunity to network with other fellow women entrepreneurs, with potential investors and mentors. With the second component, Accelerate, we will be targeting STEM-based women entrepreneurs with a proven business model that use technology and want to grow and scale their businesses regionally. And for that purpose, they are seeking to raise venture capital financing. So the project will have 2 focus. First, we will be partnering with local accelerators from the target countries to facilitate the participation of these women entrepreneurs in the programs and also received seed financing. And second, from IDB Lab, we will be investing with equity in 3 to 4 startups, committing up to $1 million. We plan to start executing the program next month. So thank you again for the opportunity to share these initiatives with you today. I will be happy to answer any questions that you might have at the end of the session. And of course, also very happy to explore potential synergies and collaborations with new partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Laila, for the great presentation, the great opportunity. So we are really looking for partners to join us in co-investing, possible investment vehicle to, for follow-on projects to support women entrepreneurship. Now let's hear another excellent opportunity in the new emerging sector, worker tech. Let's welcome Elena Heredero, lead specialist, IDB Lab. Elena, please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Pan. Good morning. It is such a pleasure to be with you today. My name is Elena Heredero, and I coordinate the area of education, talent, and jobs. And today, I would like to present to you this new concept of worker tech, which has emerged together with the platform economy. Remember when we used to wonder what the future of work would be like? At the end of 2019, the IDB estimated that an average of 69% of jobs would be lost due to the fourth industrial revolution. And then COVID-19 happened. At the height of the pandemic, the region lost 31 million jobs. And 3/4 of those jobs were in the informal economy, where people have less coverage and protection. The economic recovery will take place in a very different world of work, which was already emerging before the pandemic, but the pandemic only accelerated. And what changed in the world of work? Well, traditional labor diminished its share as a total, as a portion of total employment in Latin America and the Caribbean, where also informal jobs are in the majority. Of a total of 292 million people employed in the region, 58% of workers are in the informal sector. On the other hand, emerging ways of work, such as self-employment, are growing rapidly in the region. These new ways of work include on-demand employment, such as gig work, part-time work, temporary work, freelancing. In all of these modalities, technology may or may not play a role. And a button is enough to prove it, or a click. Workana is an Argentinian freelancing platform that in 2019 had 2.5 million freelancers and now has 4 million freelancers. Rappi has 200,000 delivery workers in the 9 Latin American countries where it operates, in Mexico, Costa Rica, Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, and Brazil. And 170,000 domestic and care home workers make up the community of solvers in Argentina, Mexico, Chile, and Colombia. The problem is that the social protection system and the legal framework for labor was created in the 20th century and doesn't cover these new ways of work. These new modalities make it necessary really to adapt regulations to provide protection to a number and growing number of people in the region. And worker tech is a possible way to do this. Worker tech is a new concept that emerged in Europe, and it refers to the digital services. The digital services for flexible and independent workers that enhance their benefits, social protection, and rights. And we have grouped these services in 3 areas. The first one is like the basic coverage for workers that includes health insurance, that includes pensions and vacations. And also in the digital economy, we have to include new rights such as the sovereign identity, your sovereign digital identity, and also and other types of digital rights. We also, the other area where these services are important are in collective organization for the neo-unions, or also at the professional level, because many of these workers are isolated and need to meet with other workers in the same profession. And also productivity and professional development tools, such as training, upskilling, and tools to improve management and access to clients, for instance. One of the keys to worker tech is really the massive personalization of services that can be achieved thanks to technology. We believe at the IDB Group that worker tech has the potential for rapid and large-scale formalization, financial inclusion, and the acquisition of new digital skills that are so important in this new era. And at the IDB Lab, we want to develop this ecosystem of new services. We want to link startups with governments, with multilateral organizations, these neo-unions and corporations to work together to develop these services. And we think that the solutions will come first from the private sector, perhaps from the banking sector, the insurance, or education sector that are providing services to these new types of work. And then, of course, we will work with governments to adapt the regulations. The IDB Lab is very well placed to be an important player in this new ecosystem. We have a very good, we're an honest broker between the private, the public, and the civil society organizations. We have a good capacity to mobilize financing, knowledge, connections in the region and outside of the region. We are agile, we like to experiment, and we have local presence. And being a human-centric lab, we want to put workers at the center of our interventions. So how can we support workers in these emerging jobs, and how can you help us in this new area? Well, we have started to do some projects, 2 ecosystem projects that want to develop these new services in Argentina and El Salvador. We also are building the Observatory of Contemporary Work in El Salvador that has a regional approach. And we are also supporting some startups that are offering these innovative services in Guatemala with Quilo, in Uruguay with Afrales, and in other countries we're exploring also, such as Mexico and Haiti. So there are many opportunities to partner in this new field. We can co-finance projects in many different parts of the region. In Argentina and El Salvador, they will do open innovation calls to identify these innovative solutions. We can partner there. We're also starting to work in the care economy sector. We're doing a study to map the platforms, and we think that in 2022, we will do a call for proposals there's another opportunity there. Also, in terms of knowledge, a lot to be learned in this new area. We have launched a publication about worker tech, but there are many others that we could do related to fair work of workers, for instance, and how the algorithms are working, etc. And of course, connections. We will be presenting some of these new initiatives at the IDB Lab Forum at the end of October, but we would love to do more events to raise awareness about these issues in the region. So to conclude, the world of work, the future of work is already here. And at the IDB Lab, we would like to see that this future works for all types of work and for workers. And we would love to partner with all of you in this area. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alina, for this amazing presentation. I hope everyone enjoyed this amazing presentation and then you learn about this new opportunity. IDB Lab's approach always puts the region's workers at the center. So we really welcome all the partners to connect, to co-finance solutions, and to generate knowledge together. Let's now welcome the next speaker, Svante Persson, Senior Operations Specialist, IDB Lab, to present partnership opportunity to create inclusive value chain solutions. Svante, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Fan, and hello everyone. My name is Svante Persson of the IDB Lab, and I'm here to present to you our initiative on inclusive value chains. And to frame this discussion, we would like to ask ourselves a couple of questions. How can we boost gender equality and increase women's economic empowerment by using a gender lens in changing how value chains operate? And can large companies improve their bottom lines by including women and other excluded groups in decision-making and other positions in the value chain? And the answer to both of these questions is yes, with inclusive value chains. So a value chain, as you all know, is all the activities and services required to bring a product or a service from its conception to sale in its final market. A value chain, thus, is the entire network of actors involved in input supply, production, processing, marketing, and consumption. That's a lot of people and resources, especially in food production, since agriculture is such an important sector in most poor and low-income countries. Next slide, please. The problem is that women and other traditionally excluded populations often have limited roles, responsibilities, and less access to resources, information, and decision-making, which means that they have lower incomes and are significantly more vulnerable to external shocks like extreme climate events, and have fewer possibilities to adapt and diversify their livelihoods. In short, the gender gap in agriculture has a strong impact on production. In some developing countries, women make up almost half of the agricultural labor force, and research shows that by empowering them and closing this gender gap, agriculture yields can increase by as much as 30%, and total agriculture output in developing countries can increase by up to 4%. But at the same time, it's estimated that purchases by farms headed by women represent only 1% of total contracts. So exclusion and discrimination just create inefficiencies and stagnation. The only way to get away from that is to actively include the people that are traditionally excluded from the decision-making process. Inclusion brings the people that are affected into the conversation as active decision makers as opposed to the object of someone else's strategy. Next slide, please. Large multinational firms have an enormous influence over their value chains, connecting a host of smaller suppliers and other related businesses. Most of these companies, however, do not apply a gender lens when they manage their businesses. But by introducing gender-smart innovations in logistics, business models, and new technologies, it's easier to include women and elevate their roles and responsibilities. This will prove that inclusive value chains not only create greater social impact, but can also increase productivity and brand value, which improves financial performance. First, we need to understand the role that women play in the value chain. identify the challenges that prevent them from actively participating in the production process, and empower them to affect the outcomes and the impacts. If we can show that including women at all stages in the value chain, we can make the business case that the bottom line for all actors in the value chain is improved. This way, inclusive value chains can be an effective poverty reduction and equality tool by providing income opportunities for the vulnerable and excluded populations, while at the same time making the companies and value chains more productive and profitable. IDB Lab's current projects on inclusive value chains are all about proving to the anchor company, often a multinational firm, that including women at the table as farmers, agronomists, project managers, and workers is better than excluding them and/or ignoring them. This inclusive approach reduces known and unknown risks, including climate risks, and helps us take advantage of opportunities that we did not know about because we never asked the right questions and because we didn't have the right people in the room when the questions were asked. As an example, in one of our projects on climate-smart agriculture for increasing productivity and climate resilience among potato farmers in Guatemala, we analyze what the roles of the indigenous women in the farmers are, and we involve them in the planning process, analyze how their roles can be changed and elevated, and how that can affect the KPIs of the farms and the entire value chain. And then we adapt all the activities accordingly. And after that, we can measure the impact, replicate, and scale. Basically, this new approach switches around how development cooperation usually sees private sector engagement by getting companies to focus on things that they think that donors value. But the missing piece that we are tackling in our projects with these large companies is that by looking at the incentive structure of the private sector to achieve the intended impact. This approach presents a unique opportunity to transform how the private sector operates through a partnership with IDB Lab. That's why inclusive value chains are inspiring, as they move the conversation from philanthropy and CSR to how companies make money and save costs. Once you convince a large multinational company that by including women as critical actors along value chains, you increase their profits, and that's how you can achieve systemic impact. We can then illustrate this impact by inclusion by the improved core business KPIs like yield, turnover, ease of finding and keeping new suppliers, cost control, etc. of the anchor company and the entire value chain, and by showing that these can be improved through more inclusive solutions than business as usual. The largest food and beverage corporations in the world source from thousands of smallholder farmers globally. A commitment driven by this type of evidence from these large companies to move from gender blind to gender informed in their value chains can change how they source billions of dollars in agricultural raw materials each year. If this stimulates other industry players to follow, one project can lead to significant market shifts in creating new, equitable, high-quality opportunities for women. The evidence from IDB Lab projects will push uptake of inclusive strategies across large multinational business units and make a compelling argument for other companies in the industry to follow. If these partnerships can influence other companies to adopt the same approaches, the impact can extend beyond these projects and push changes in other companies to scale across sectors and geographically. So why is this important? Women continue to be underrepresented in business leadership and labor markets in Latin America and other regions, and especially in less developed economies. These gender gaps follow a global trend, and there are many examples throughout the Latin American Caribbean region that demonstrate the limited access to equal economic opportunities in local value chains, especially in natural resource-dependent economies. Investments in women's economic empowerment and inclusiveness within agricultural value chains and other value chains will grow social business dividends in the form of tangible improvements in productivity and yields, and thereby quality of life in the engaged communities and support more resilient livelihoods. Next slide, please. So why partner with IDB Lab on this topic? IDB Lab has decades of value chain competitiveness and economic diversification experience all over the Latin American Caribbean region. We also have a long trajectory of applying a gender-smart and women's economic empowerment lens in all of our projects, especially now in this current economic context and after the COVID crisis. There's a need to provide women and other excluded populations with the tools and skills like innovative digital technologies and connections to markets and sell their products and services through regional and local value chains more effectively. Based on our track record in this field, IDB Lab is now working with large companies and funding partners like WeFi to adopt the necessary tools and design proof of concept models for creating inclusive value chains. IDB Lab can help with the training, certification, and designing the type of experimental proof of concept projects that can provide the companies with the information necessary to make the changes that matter for women and other traditionally excluded groups. IDB Lab is a respected partner and a great connector for the companies and the value chains to which they belong, and can be a real agent for change and systemic impact for economic empowerment, inclusion, poverty reduction, and equality. Thank you very much. And the final slide, please.
Thank you, Svante, for the presentation. Really, I think let's join hands to make impact, to influence in this really important opportunity. Now we welcome the last speaker for this session, Luis Alejandro Fernandez, Senior Investment Officer, IDB Lab, to introduce how innovation can create a greener agriculture. Luis, you have the floor.
Thank you, Fan. Hi, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here virtually. I am Luis Alejandro Fernandez from the investment team at IDB Lab. I will be sharing with you all a bit about our investment thesis and about our approach on the agri-food tech sector, and sharing and mainly putting the question out there of how innovation is helping to shape the future of agriculture and food. So I will briefly share some context first on the on the main development challenges and structural trends that are transforming the sector, with a focus in our region in Latin America and the Caribbean, then getting to know what is happening in the agri-food tech ecosystem, what types of innovative solutions are flourishing in our region, and how are they solving for the sector's major pain points. So what is IDB Lab's role here? What is our investment approach and value add? And of course, briefly look ahead at what is the opportunity before us. So Latin America and the Caribbean region has positioned itself as a global leading net food exporter. The region has more than a third of the world's water resources, more than a quarter of the world's availability of high quality, productive arable land. The region represents a massive food production platform with adequate climate, water, and land availability, and the region has one of the most broad and diverse types of crops and types of foods. The region has also a big rural economy with deep roots and a long tradition in the agricultural sector, with large portions of populations and local economies dependent on this sector. So since the second half of the 20th century, the region has sharply increased agricultural production and agricultural outputs, and has positioned itself as a world-leading food exporter. And it has done so by expanding the agricultural frontier, raising yields faster than any other development region in the world. But this growth model has come with some important social and environmental challenges. Around 53% of rural population in the region currently lives in poverty, despite the region's sharp agricultural growth. The region is estimated to have 55% of total labor force dependent on this sector, 16.6 million smallholder farms where 60 million people live and work. And these farms represent more than 80% of all farm units in the region. And they represent and account for almost half of all the food produced in the region. However, the large part of small and medium-sized farms were left behind this agricultural revolution and growth in the last decades. Smallholder farms remain with low productivity models with inadequate use of inputs and resources and heavily impacting the environment. Furthermore, agriculture is still coupled with environmental impact as it consumes 70% of fresh water, contributes to half of the greenhouse gas emissions, and 1/3 of food production for human consumption is lost or wasted throughout the chain. In this context, we are seeing some multiple and major trends transforming the sector. At the center of these trends, from the supply side, we find impact on scarce natural resources, negative impact on environment and climate change. From the demand side, multiple trends related to population growth, to urbanization, to rising middle class, increased consumer conscience and scrutiny on health and nutrition and where food is coming from, aging of farmers and consumers, as well as other factors are affecting the way that food is produced, distributed, and consumed. Increased public policies and regulations in the sector are also a driving force. A growing population expected to reach 10 billion by 2050, combined with these shifting consumption patterns driven by urbanization, driven by a growing middle class, means that global agriculture production needs to be 50% higher by 2050 than it is in the last years in order to meet this demand. And here is the double challenge that we have. All of this must happen in the context of a changing climate and unsustainable pressure on land and other natural resources. So here's where innovation comes into play. New recent technologies, entrepreneurs with innovative solutions and business models in the sector are needed more than ever. And technological breakthrough, technological innovation is the driving force so that agri-food production systems can become more efficient, more inclusive, more sustainable. Agri-food tech startups in the region are steadily increasing. We have mapped more than 800 agri-food tech startups in the region, where half of them were created in the last 5 years. And they are solving a very wide range of pain points and inefficiencies throughout the broad ag and food value chain. From in the farm innovations using technology to increase yields with ag precision, digital ag tools, remote sensing, satellite imagery, smart irrigation technologies that optimize inputs and increase climate resilience, to genetics, biotechnologies that reduce food waste, solutions also called beyond the gate of the farm throughout the value chain, which help farmers capture more value, access to financial and insurance services, increasing transparency, increasing efficiency, smart digital logistics, marketplaces, up to downstream food tech solutions for healthier nutrition, food safety, and food security. So convinced that innovation is a powerful tool and innovative solutions developed by agri-food tech startups play a key role in transforming the sector towards a more inclusive, efficient, and sustainable food production systems, IDB Lab seeks to invest in the most promising early-stage, innovative, high-impact, and scalable business models in the region that are tackling the sector's development challenges along the whole value chain. We focus on solutions that improve livelihoods, climate resilience of small and medium-sized farmers, and enhance access to markets, price transparency, and value capturing along the chain. We have been very actively contributing to the development of the agri-food tech sector ecosystem through the support of various private sector initiatives in the region. These include ecosystem building activities, knowledge products, events that IDB Lab develops continuously, participating and supporting incubators, accelerator programs, up to investments in venture capital funds and direct investments. In the last years, we have published 2 very relevant and pioneering studies in the sector on the agtech innovation mapping in the region and also landscaping the agri-tech ecosystem and solution specifically for smallholder farmers. So IDB Lab is invested in 50 early stage agri-food tech startups and small agribusiness companies through venture capital funds in which IDB Lab participates as an investor, as well as through direct investments and through other financial products ranging from senior subordinated loans, convertible loans, revenue-based loans, and other mezzanine instruments. IDB Lab is invested in 13 venture capital funds and in 8 startups directly with focus in agri-food tech sectors. And these ventures are addressing the sector's most pressing development challenges throughout the value chain. IDB Lab's main financial and non-financial value add includes providing regional expertise, local connections, supporting agri-food tech focused venture capital funds in bridging financing gaps to support early stage startups with smart capital, engaging in ecosystem development initiatives, unlocking investment of other investors, strengthening venture capital funds and portfolio companies in social and environmental impact monitoring, as well as the best governance practices. And of course, connecting portfolio companies to both public and private sector programs within IDB and IDB Invest. So the context, the challenges, and structural trends in the sector are pretty clear. The role innovation plays is critical and needed more than ever. The opportunity for the region is set before us. The agri-food tech innovation revolution we are seeing in the region will require incremental smart capital inflows to finance the development, the growth, and the scale of these business models. So we would love to have you join this revolution. We are open to any ideas and suggestions for collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luis, for the great presentation. Yeah, I saw all the track record of IDB Lab investment in the sector. All of this evidence, IDB Lab is a partner of choice in the agri-tech, in the food tech sector. So we really look forward to work with more partners. And then now it's the time for Q&A. So let's see if you have any, if the audience has any questions or you want to understand more about the either of the opportunity or any opportunities, just please type your questions in the chat and I will read loud to the speakers so they can address some of your questions. I received the first question. I think either Masato, Marco, Laila, Svante, Luis can address the question. The question is really about the initiative you presented and then also the opportunities. I understand that IDB Lab principally work with the private sector. It's the one private sector arm in early, investing to in innovation. So and today there are a lot of audience from the public sector. So how can the public sector work with the IDB Lab in these initiatives, considering you are the innovation laboratory of the IDB Group? Please.
Maybe I can start taking this question. Thank you very much for the question, and it's very relevant. Maybe first I'd highlight that IDB Lab is a laboratory for innovation of the IDB Group, and we do work with and for the public sector as well, every time more closely than ever. And it's true that our direct partners are mainly private sector partners like startups or NGOs, commerce, but sometimes we do work with public agencies. And also there are many projects where even though our direct partners are the startups or private sector, but they contribute to the value proposition of the public sector. And said that silver economy that we talked today is one of the most relevant topics of with the public sector, and we do work very closely with the public sector, and that's why we have Marco here today, and we are forming a group-wide team. So there are many things we are doing together, and we want to do together. I don't know if Marco wants to compliment.
Yeah, maybe just to give a couple of examples in healthcare technologies or the management of chronic diseases. In some cases, there is the need to lower the cost of innovations that have been developed in the private sector so that it can be adopted on a large scale, and IDB Lab can play an important role in this. In other cases, the public sector can facilitate the exchange of information that connects clients to providers of services, and these platforms are sometimes developed to start a sector by the public sector.
Thank you very much to answer the question. Now I see we have another question. We have, public sector, we have some private sector from outside the region. And then they just wonder if they want to work with IDB Lab. Besides the excellent opportunity you presented, we understand it's the high relevant to the IDB Lab and to the region. But what other areas, some priority areas they can, explore? Could you kind of like elaborate or introduce other priority area IDB Lab is looking or working on, so they can have a better understanding, how they partner with the IDB Lab on different fronts? Thank you. Any speaker, if you want to pick up the question, please.
Well, perhaps I can say that another area that we are also starting to work on is edutech or edtech, education technology. We want to see the role of innovation to transform education systems in the region. The region has experienced the worst economic crisis, but also millions of students have been out of schools, and they don't have access to other supplemental solutions to continue their education. And we think that edutech solutions, edtech solutions could play a very important role in supporting the education of children and also young people. So this is another area that we are exploring together with the education division of the bank. And this is where startups can play also a very important role. And, we also need to see how public systems can work better with the startups and with the solutions to understand the context, their capacity to adopt innovation, and also to improve the regulations to buy innovation also. So we are working in this new area as well.
Thank you, Elena. Okay, so really, thank you very much for all the speakers and all those great presentation. The needs in the regions really broad, and then really alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much. Partnership is really the only avenue to reach scale and achieve meaningful impact. Let's act together. So this concludes the session, and it was really a pleasure to have all the speakers with us. That's Marsato, Marco, Elena, Laila, Svante, Luis. Thank you very much. And I hope all the audience enjoyed this session and then learned a lot about what you can do with the IDB Lab. Let's continue the conversations for this opportunity presented today and also other opportunities you are interested in. You can see our contact information in the agenda. So if you go to the event website and then you check the session, the IDB Lab session, and then you click more information, you can see the agenda. And then in the agenda, we have the contact information of Miguel Elders is our lead partnership specialist, and also myself, Fan Li. So you can see our email. So please email us, talk with us. We look forward to discuss any opportunities. Thank you very much. And then really, thank you.